Morning, everybody. After last night's rainstorm, I was a little worried whether we were going to be able to continue on down the road, but it is a glorious day here in Cheyenne, so we are going to be continuing on our little adventure, going down Interstate 80. Today we're going to be taking a look at a little historical monument that they left right in the middle of Interstate 80. So that's going to be our first stop on the day. And then we're going to travel to a location on the old Lincoln Highway, US 30. And we're going to investigate a little area on that. And then we're going to take a look at a place where you cannot see from the interstate, but it is of historical significance. It is incredibly important as far as the Transcontinental Railroad is concerned. And so we're going to wind up out there at a place, like I said, you can't see it anymore. It doesn't exist. It used to, but it doesn't anymore. And there is something out there that you guys just need to see. It is absolutely impressive. So let's get out of Cheyenne. Let's head on down the Interstate 80. Let's take a look at part of the old Lincoln Highway and stop at a place that is out of sight and out of mind. Our first stop of the day takes us to the middle of Interstate 80 to view Tree Rock, a very unusual historical site along the old Transcontinental Railroad. The railroad passed this point as they constructed the tracks across the Sherman Mountains in 1867 to 1869. Trains would frequently stop here and give the tree a drink from their water buckets. However, in 1901, the railroad moved to the south and the abandoned grade was made into a wagon road. The old Lincoln Highway passed by Tree Rock in the 1920s, as did Interstate 80 in the 1960s. The tree grows out of a crack in a boulder of the 1.4 billion year old Sherman granite and is a twisted limber pine of unknown age. However, it is common these types of pines can live as long as 2,000 years. A few miles west of Tree Rock, we find the Summit Rest Area, marking the highest point on the old Lincoln Highway. It is here we will find the Robert Russin bust of Abraham Lincoln, commemorating the Lincoln Highway, one of the first transcontinental highways in the United States. The Lincoln Highway ran 3,389 miles from New York to San Francisco, California. The bust is 12.5 feet high and rests on a 30-foot tall granite pedestal. The bust was originally erected in 1959 on Sherman Hill, overlooking the old Lincoln Highway. In 1969, after Interstate 80 was built, the monument was moved to its current location between Cheyenne and Laramie, Wyoming. Across the highway, we just stopped at the Lincoln Rest Area on I-80 going into Laramie. And we saw the Lincoln bust up on the huge pedestal, and it looks spectacular sitting there, and it looks sort of looking up I-80, which is essentially the Lincoln Highway. However, that's not the original location for the Lincoln bust. The Lincoln bust that sits in the Lincoln Rest Area used to sit right here on this pedestal. This is a very substantial pedestal made out of railroad ties, concrete. This was the location of the Lincoln bust that you just saw. It was actually located on the old Lincoln Highway, US Highway 30, and it was relocated when this section of the highway was abandoned. I-80 came through, they built the rest area, they relocated the Lincoln bust to its current location. But this is the original location for the bust. While the rest area marks the high point on the old Lincoln Highway, the remains of the town of Sherman mark the high point on the Transcontinental Railroad and can't be seen from the interstate. It is unfortunate, as millions of people have missed an important piece of American history. Just wait, you'll see. In the open space before you, a town of a few hundred people once thrived, along with a general store, post office, schoolhouse, 2 hotels, 2 saloons, a roundhouse, and a windmill with a 50,000-gallon water tank. Today, the area is visited by antelope and the occasional visitor. Here are the remains of the roundhouse. The windmill and water tank which would have been nearby, have long since disappeared. A few low-lying walls, some rusty pieces of metal, and piles of stone are all that remain, marking the location of the 5-stall roundhouse and turntable. Other nearby foundations may have been the section houses or businesses. Sherman was initially called Lone Tree Pass and Evans Pass after James Evans, the original surveyor of the shorter railroad route through southern Wyoming. The name Sherman was finally agreed upon at the request of William Tecumseh Sherman, the town's namesake. Within 15 months of the railroad reaching Sherman Hill, the town boasted railroad machine shops, a Wells Fargo Express office, a newspaper, a general store, and 2 two-story hotels, the Sherman House and the Summit House. Oh, and of course, saloons. From the 1860s to 1918, the town sat at the summit of the original grade of the Transcontinental Railroad. Sherman's demise came in 1918 when the railroad closed its station house and moved the tracks about 3 miles south. The residents soon abandoned Sherman, leaving behind a small cemetery. Over the years, most of the remains were removed by relatives to cemeteries elsewhere. A few remain, mostly unmarked. There is one prominent headstone marking the grave of Lester Heckert, a 1-year-old child who died in 1883. Although Sherman was abandoned in 1918, the site is well marked by a very dominant feature on the barren landscape, the Ames Monument, erected by the Union Pacific to mark the original high point on the railroad. Now let's go take an up-close look at this prominent pyramid on the plains. Well, we've made it to the high point on the Transcontinental Railroad that is located right alongside Interstate 80 between Cheyenne and Laramie. And we are at the old town site of Sherman. Now, Sherman, as you saw, no longer really exists. What's left of it is the Roundhouse, where they used to turn around the locomotives, and they could actually either chug up from Cheyenne and come up what was known as the Gangplank, and they got to the summit here, and then they could turn around and they could chug their way back east, or they had the railroad that came from the Laramie direction, and they could come up to the point up here and turn back around and then head back out west. So Sherman played a very important role on the Transcontinental Railroad. There's not much left, just the Roundhouse, like I said, and I showed you the cemetery. So that's pretty much all that's left of Sherman. Now, what is left is what's directly behind me, and this is the Ames Monument. Now, the Ames Monument is located at an elevation of 8,247 feet, and it represents the high point on the Transcontinental Railroad. It is dedicated to the Ames brothers, Oliver and Oakes Ames, who were the major financiers of the Transcontinental Railroad. The monument itself is made up of Sherman granite, and it's called the Sherman granite after the town of Sherman. It's about 1 billion years old, the granite, not the monument, and that is what they used to construct the monument. It was actually quarried just probably less than a mile from here. And it was quarried there, brought here. The monument was erected and it was completed in 1882. The architect of the monument was a person by the name of Henry Hobson Richardson, and he was a well-known architect out of Boston. Our last stop of the day takes us to the thriving metropolis of Buford, Wyoming. It once boasted a population of 2001 and was the location of a military outpost during the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. With the demise of Sherman along the Transcontinental Railroad, it was, as you saw, the highest point along the Transcontinental Railroad. When that no longer was in existence, what rose was a little town behind me. Buford, Wyoming was established in 1866 and is now billed, according to the sign, as the highest town in elevation between New York City and San Francisco along Interstate 80. Has a population of 1. So with that, I'd like to thank you for coming along on our little adventure today to explore the highest point on the Transcontinental Railroad and the town of Sherman and the Lincoln Highway. Let me know in the comments what you thought was the best thing that you saw today. Was it the Ames Monument? Was it the ruins of Sherman? Was it the Lincoln head bust on the old Lincoln Highway? Let me know in the comments. We answer every comment. And remember, make sure you hit the big thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you hit those notifications because you don't want to miss any videos coming out from the Rock Doctor. Well, until next time, don't take a trip, let the trip take you. I'll be seeing you on down the road. The Ames brothers were responsible. Nope. We ready to go? Are you sure? Oh, no, wait. Hang on. Okay, we ready to go? What? At a place called the Ames Monument. It commemorates, is a couple of miles away. The cemetery is off behind me, and nope, I don't like this.